Now, banks around the world have trillions of dollars sitting in these pre-funded accounts in hundreds of countries all at the same time, meaning that the capital is trapped. So it's unavailable to do anything else. And the banks will pay enormous fees to maintain the network of correspondent relationships that make those accounts function. Now, XRP eliminates that problem mechanically. So instead of pre-funding accounts in every currency in every country, a bank can hold XRP as a bridge. When they need to send dollars to Philippines, XRP can convert dollars to XRP instantaneously and then XRP to Philippine pesos on the other side. The transaction settles in under 4 seconds. So the bank never needs a pre-funded peso account, meaning that the capital that was trapped is now freed. Now, this is not some in the air theory type of use case. It is the live production system that the Japanese banks presented real settlement data for at the Tokyo conference, right? And so they stated that the data showed that it is 60% cheaper than Swift, and it does settle in under 4 seconds. And so these are production corridors running real transactions with real money, okay? And they've been doing this for quite some time. Now, here's why this directly connects Ripple's business success to XRP value in a way that Motley Fool prediction ignores. Every time a bank uses Ripple's network to route a cross-border payment using XRP as the bridge asset, XRP is demanded by the market to facilitate that transaction. So the more corridors that Ripple opens, the more banks that adopt the network, the more transactions that flow through those corridors, the more demand is created for XRP as the bridge currency. Now, the relationship between Ripple's business growth and XRP demand is not loose, okay? It's not a loose understanding. It is a mechanical understanding that is embedded in the architecture of how the product really works. And then there is also Evernorth. Evernorth is building native lending infrastructure on the XRP ledger, targeting what they describe as a multi-billion-dollar annual yield opportunity. They are holding 400 million XRP as a liquidity foundation for this lending ecosystem. In native lending protocol, XRP is not just moving through transactions. It is sitting as collateral backing institutional loans. The demand is not transactional, it's positional. Institutions need to hold XRP, lock it, and commit it to lending pools for the duration of lending agreements. That is a completely different category of demand that did not exist when most bearish XRP theses were written, including this one. And then there is Ripple Prime inside DTCC. Ripple acquired Hidden Roll, rebranded it Ripple Prime, and by sometime around March, Ripple Prime appeared in DTCC's NSCC directory, which is the same clearing infrastructure used by Goldman Sachs and JPMorgan Chase, with XRP ledger integrated as the settlement layer, with also RLUSD approved as collateral within the same structure. DTCC processes the majority of American securities transactions every single day. When Ripple Prime settles inside that infrastructure using XRP ledger, XRP is the rails those settlements run on. So every transaction that flows through Ripple Prime inside DTCC creates demand for XRP ledger capacity, which is denominated in XRP. So when Motley Fool says Ripple, the company is thriving, but that success will not translate to XRP to token, that argument requires believing that the bridge currency used to facilitate cross-border payments, the collateral sitting inside a multi-billion-dollar native lending ecosystem, and the settlement layer embedded in American securities clearing infrastructure somehow do not create demand for the asset that powers all three of those things. And so to me, that's not a bearish thesis. That is a thesis written without the data. Okay.